It is the one night of the year where WWE gets extreme, and sometimes it's extremely boring, other times it's extremely annoying. But tonight I thought was extremely entertaining. I'm Kellen Nitro, and this is my take, my first impressions of Extreme Rules 2017. Pre-show match was Kalisto versus Apollo Crews. Of course, Apollo Crews doing the whole Titus brand thing with Titus O'Neil right now, and might be leading to some dissension with that finish. I thought the match was pretty passable for a pre-show match. Nothing more to be said with both these guys. The Intercontinental title match was the very first match on the main show card. Dean Ambrose, the champion, versus The Miz, who is the challenger, going for his 7th Intercontinental title reign. I thought the match was fairly entertaining from start to finish. The Miz ended up winning the title again. Nothing but great news for that guy. The guy has come so far just the last 12 months into this coming pay-per-view and the pay-per-views coming up here in the summer and that stuff. I mean, heck, he was one of the standout performers at WrestleMania in a throwaway match. So the dude has come such a long way, and it's great to see him get rewarded for that hard work. And yeah, kudos to both guys for a great match. I would almost think to say that The Miz will end up maybe being looked at now in the Universal title picture after this run is done. I would think with the IC title, at least I would hope. His performances are a lot better than a couple of the guys they got up there right now in that picture. So would love to see it. Great job, Miz. Just a quick closer to that last thought about the Intercontinental title match. I thought it was very strange that at a pay-per-view called Extreme Rules that we would have a disqualification stipulation. Isn't the pay-per-view supposed to be no rules throughout the entire thing? Isn't that the whole idea of the pay-per-view, to have Extreme Rules? And Extreme Rules in WWE has always meant no rules, but the main rule was to, if Dean used a chair or something along the lines. But anyway, they took chicken shit and made it into chicken salad out of that match. So, you know, kudos to them. It was awesome. And of course, Twitter online tonight was abuzz with praise for The Miz, and I touched on that earlier on in this video. Yes, of course, The Miz has progressed big time, and I can't wait to see where he is come Mania time next year. I hope he's back in the main event picture on a brand, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. Mixed tag was up next with Noam Dar and Alicia Fox versus Rich Swann and Sasha Banks. And I have to do the pronunciation right. Alicia Fox. You know, there's something in that pairing with Rich Swann and Sasha Banks. I think they're trying to add a little bit more main roster star power to 205 Live. So I think that's why you'll see Sasha Banks on 205 Live maybe a little bit more often. You know, to see her in a valet role would be a different take, but I don't think it would hurt her at all with a talent like Swann if they could work something that they are more of like a tag team cohesive unit than more of a wrestler valet type relationship. I think that could probably work in both parties' favors going forward, but still really exciting to see. I enjoyed that match, and it was a match that you could probably watch on Monday Night Raw, and it would play out the same way. But ergo, Swann and Banks, again, Swann breaking the hometown curse. They had a run here of I don't know how many pay-per-views in a row here where the hometown guy, including the one that just happened at Backlash with Randy Orton, lost in their match. So hey, there we go. It's, I guess, far enough down the card that they would be like, let the hometown guy win. Elias Sampson came out and kind of did the ballad of Extreme Rules, and I had put on Twitter that, hey, we've had a heavy metal singer, we've had a country music singer, why not have a street performing hipster bearded vagabond? Why not? I don't think WWE has gone the route of opera singer yet. I'd have to take a look and see. Then in your Vince Russo special of the night, Bayley versus Alexa Bliss for the women's title in a kendo stick on a pole match. And it was short. I think it was thankfully short for both parties. Alexa Bliss has been a rock star for this entire thing, and it's not Bayley's fault either. It's just the creative leading into this match, and this match itself was probably amongst the worst of 2017 for both individuals, if not the entirety of the company. I did not think that it has helped either individual's character progression at all. I think, if anything, it may have taken a couple steps backward on Bayley. Luckily with Alexa, I think that her supernova is burning so hot right now that it would take a lot more to cool her down a little bit. So Bliss retains the title. They made do with what they could have, let's just say that, but it wasn't either woman's shining moment. Had a tag team steel cage match for the titles between the Hardys and Sheamus and Cesaro. Sheamus and Cesaro walked out with the belts at the end of a very awesome steel cage match for PG era WWE. I thought it told a good story if that's what they're looking for. The one thing I don't get with the WWE escape the cage matches, especially with tag teams, and it was exploited here tonight, is that wouldn't you want your partner back in the cage longer as a unit, and then both of you would try to exit at the same time? Like, wouldn't you try to hit like both your finishers on both guys, incapacitate both individuals of the other team, and then hop out of the cage at exactly the same time to avoid the situation that the Hardys were in tonight? Well, it's pretty much, the problem with that logic going into the WWE style, I call it WWE style steel cage match. I prefer kind of the classic style where, okay, the cage is there to keep people out, and it's one fall to finish in the cage or a submission. I think they could have probably brought that stipulation in, and it probably would have meant a lot more and made it a little bit better. But WWE has to have that fast track system where a wrestler would top the cage, I should say, and jump over. And with tag teams, it's the one stipulation where that stipulation, or that, I guess, result, I should say, not stipulation, doesn't work. And I hope that in the future, with some of the fresh minds coming into the company now, so if they take a look at that and reassess it, that's all. It's just, I think it's just a real minor psychology thing, but I just, it's something that irked me throughout the entire match. Is like, well, why don't both individuals incapacitate both members of the opposing team and then try to jump out? It looked like there was times during the match they were going to try and do that, but you always could tell when somebody else was going to jump up and get it. So, or just go back to the classic pinfall or submission. I think that might be even a better route. Something to ponder, at least. Cruiserweight title up next between Neville and Austin Aries, and this was a submission match. I thought that this was going to be a title change because we were, after the Sheamus and Cesaro team won the tag titles in the previous match, we're in a rare situation on Monday Night Raw, which I'm trying to remember the last time in WWE history we've had it, and nothing's coming to mind, is that every belt on a brand is held by a heel wrestler. So looking at that, I was like, well, Aries is going to walk out with the title, right? Great match. Neville walks out with the title, which is a little bit of a shocker. And we look at that as, okay, interesting. That's moving forward. I guess Neville is the guy for 205 Live. I'm not sure if this will lead, what this leaves for Aries. I guess we'll find out later on in the week on 205 Live, and maybe even Monday Night Raw if they decide to progress that storyline a little bit early. But it's a unique scenario for Raw. It's fresh. Like I said, I can't remember the last time there was heels holding all of the belts in WWE. WCW, I know in the NWO era, there were times where the NWO held a vast majority of the belts, but I can't remember if there was a time where everybody in the NWO held the belt, or was the rightful title holder, I should say. I mean, there were times in the NWO where they had the belts, but if they were title holders or not, I don't know. I can't remember. But, you know, I just think it's a very interesting situation that of all the belts on the Raw brand, that's what we got. Then came the main event, the number one contender 5-way, and that was a great match. If there's one match alone to watch this pay-per-view for, it was that 5-way. Everything was happening in that match. We've got stuff being broken on the outside. We had an uneasy alliance between Samoa Joe and Bray Wyatt. We had Finn Balor becoming a one-man army. However, he did not walk out as the Demon. He walked out as the Rock and Rolla Finn Balor, I should say. Seth and Roman kind of renewed their hostilities from Raw a few weeks back as well. So I think every notch along the way of possible storylines for the summer was kind of teased during that match. And with Samoa Joe walking out as the number one contender, that leads at great balls of fire. One of the worst pay-per-view names ever. But it could be one of the most interesting pay-per-view main events ever, between Brock Lesnar, who is the Universal Champion, and Samoa Joe, who is the number one contender. I think this show is a great watch, and clocking in at 2 hours, 44 minutes, and 16 seconds, I should say. Not 2 minutes. It will be definitely something that a lot of fans could go back and watch and kind of stomach with relative ease, I would think. WWE has to drop the Extreme Rules moniker from this pay-per-view, though. Maybe just come up with another one under the vast majority that they would have. I don't know if this would constitute diving into the WCW library to get access to like a Super Brawl, maybe would be a good name for it, or something along the lines. But the Extreme Rules thing is a little played out, and it's kind of hard to do an extreme, quote-unquote, no rules pay-per-view in this era of TV when you have sponsors that you have to stay within that GPG parameter for your fans to watch, or for your advertisers to be happy, and for your younger fans to watch. So I would nix the Extreme Rules idea of the pay-per-view and just bring in just a generic name for it. Like I said, you own the WCW library. Let's go and grab one of theirs. Maybe that becomes a Spring Stampede pay-per-view. I mean, and just cycle it around towns that have a cowboy connection or something like that for a few years. Just my 2 cents on it. But I'm Kellen Nitro. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and comment below if you agree or disagree with any of my ideas. We'll see you again in a few weeks now for Money in the Bank, where we got 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches. One that will be very interesting with the recent change of allegiance of one of the members in the Money in the Bank ladder matches from face to heel. And then the other one that could be a little bit dangerous, certainly will be historic, but I feel really uneasy about with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I felt the same way going into the Hell in a Cell match too between Sasha and Charlotte, so I'm pretty sure it's just me, but we'll wait and see what happens. Kellen Nitro saying later days. Stay safe, everyone, and go back and check out Extreme Rules. Like I said, very watchable show if you can get past the fact that it's not an Extreme Rules, per se pay-per-view. If it was just a generic name, it'd be a great pay-per-view. Later, guys.